Today, more than ever, advances in clinical and translational science require effective interdisciplinary research teams. One of the more challenging and important relationships within a clinical research team is that between the clinical investigator and the statistician. Unfortunately, this relationship is often poorly understood and appreciated.
The worst is when someone just asks for a p-value at the end of a study. That's not the ideal relationship.
I suspect that statisticians are often sort of called in, like at the sort of be at the ready, but we're not going to talk to you for months, and then we call you and can get this done. And
the best approach that I've learned from is those who are partnered together from the beginning, and developing the question, the approach, and the answers.
If the statisticians are involved at an early stage and included in the design and planning and understand the questions that need to be answered, they can contribute a great deal to that effort.
In this brief video, we will discuss the roles that statisticians play across the lifespan of a study, and we'll hear from experienced statisticians and other clinical researchers about how to make collaborations successful. The first step in the lifespan of most studies is the development of a research question and a proposal for how that question will be answered through a study.
Talk to a statistician at the very beginning stages of a project. If you have an idea, that is the time to talk to a statistician.
As a first step in proposal development, the statistician should become familiar with clinical issues that are relevant to the project.
It's important for the biostatisticians to try to understand the medical issues. What are the questions?
Next, the statistician can select statistical methods that will allow the team to answer the questions of interest.
I'm an editor associate editor at a journal, and it is absolutely amazing the number of times people do not follow the basic principle of ensuring the analysis matches elements of the design. I mean, it's actually kind of incredible.
And then estimate the required sample size for the proposed analyses.
If I feel comfortable that I've been able to translate the research question into kind of a statistical framework, and I feel comfortable we have a common understanding, then before even kind of starting with preliminary calculations, I really want to know what preliminary data is available to inform all of the inputs, because I'm really cautious about giving an overly optimistic sample size estimation and discovering later that perhaps we assumed there was much less variability than actually we would really expect in this new population.
Next, the statistician can write the analytics section of the proposal, and the team should agree on a writing plan to put the whole proposal together. Finally, the research team should make sure to budget appropriate levels of effort for the statistician and any supporting staff.
Involving statisticians in budgeting and making sure that time is being budgeted for correctly is an important element too.
The next step in the research process is study planning. Statistician responsibilities at the planning stage include providing input on the database system that will be used to collect study data. This will help ensure that the manner in which the data is collected and coded will be compatible with the proposed statistical analyses for the study. It's important to note that the statistician is generally not responsible for creation of the database system. Informatics is its own discipline, and the research team should include members with expertise in informatics and database creation. In the case of a randomized clinical trial, the statistician will be primarily responsible for designing the randomization procedures for participant enrollment. They may also provide input on other protocol issues, such as helping design procedures for dealing with unexpected protocol deviations during study execution, or helping design quality control procedures, in particular to ensure that primary study outcomes are accurately assessed and collected.
The next step in the research process is study execution. In this step, the statistician can prepare statistical reports for the Data Safety and Monitoring Board. They can address unexpected data collection issues that might impact the final statistical analyses. And they can provide input on any protocol amendments that might be made during the study. Statisticians might also work to identify or create improved statistical methods for addressing the study question.
You need to get up to date on the literature, know what's known, do this well in advance of having to write any analysis plan, and then make sure you are identifying people with whom you can collaborate if need be to even think of, if possible, developing methods to address those limitations, or at least being as transparent as possible about what the limitations are.
The last stage of the study is analysis and reporting. At this stage of the process, the statistician will generally oversee database lock and creation of the analytic data set. They will conduct statistical analyses consistent with the original statistical analysis plan specified in the study protocol.
I think those of us in clinical trials understand the importance of identifying your outcomes a priori, like up front. So when you start to like sort of nitpick, oh, can you do this? Can you redo this? Can you look at it this way? Can you look at it that way? I think that there tends to be a lot of sort of dissatisfaction with, well, why did we design a protocol that had these objectives, and now we're going all about it in every which way.
The statistician is also responsible for the integrity of the data analyses conducted. Finally, they will work with the rest of the study team to prepare abstracts and manuscripts. Across the entire research process, it's important to maintain effective communication and integration among all members of the scientific team.
If it's a project that only pops up, say, every 6-9 months, I cannot at all remember what that project is about, and I have to relearn everything over and over again. And so that also is very challenging. I work on, probably over 15 different studies, and so the ones that are much more frequent and kind of keep me in the loop with things are the ones that I feel like I'm able to contribute better towards. So infrequent communication is actually really challenging.
One example where I've observed this is where someone treats a statistician as a service provider, that they're simply there to generate programs and p-values. And that's not what a partnership or a collaboration is about. It's actually informing, addressing the research question at hand. It's not a widget process.
That's an example of what I've seen that hasn't worked well, is when statisticians are somewhere else, a different building, a different side of the campus, a different campus completely, and they're just regarded as a hired gun brought in to consult on the project and help salvage something that may not be going well. Well, that just doesn't work. You have to be involved at the outset. It's a partnership, and there's just no substitute for the frequent communications that can occur when we're working together in the same proximity.
And then in the end, being able to meet in person, ideally in the context of a study, makes the world of difference, which I know sounds quite obvious, but making the effort to be able to do that is really, really key.
So one of the rewards to me as a non-clinician, but as a statistician involved in these studies, is to see that the information collected has made a difference in the lives of real people, and in some cases resulted in saving lives.